Alright, what's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. Link will be in the description box below as usual. Go get it. PayPal link there. Also, they asked me to put it up, so I'll put it up. This video, though, is entitled I Learned from Other or Their Mistakes. Tell you some stories, right? About because a wise person can learn from other people's mistakes. I've made mistakes on my own that I didn't, whether I was being stupid or unintentionally. But there were things that I didn't do because I saw how it worked out with other people. And things I've heard other people do that I was like, oh, I'm not doing that. So, in college, first semester, learned a lesson from somebody giving a speech prior to graduating before I got there about them wasting too much money in student loans, owing six figures in student loans because they were trying to live it up while they was in school getting their education. So by the time I got to school, lesson was already learned. I am not about to owe six figures to anybody trying to get a degree. Ain't finna happen. So, that put me on a different path than other people. You wasn't gonna do it. For all the sneakerheads, right? So there's a young cat wanted to go to school. He took some time off, but he wanted to go to school to get his education. And that was his latest dream. But he was a sneakerhead. And he was just buying Jordans, LeBrons, foam posits, Air Maxes. And he had this huge collection of shoes. And what happened was, it's like, I really want to go to school, but I don't have the money. And somebody had to say, well, you actually do have the money, but it's in your closet. Like, your sneaker collection is all your college money because his sneaker collection got that big. Like, he could have had a store, basically. So it shows, don't get involved in the wrong thing, right? Just, mistakes I've learned from other people. Flossing. Don't spend too much to impress people because I remember actually, I think that same semester in college, Navigators came out. My older cousin is a millionaire. And he was like, I got a Navigator. But he is a millionaire, so, that was late 90s. And I was like, I don't know what that is. So he's trying to explain to me what it was. And I'm like, because last car I saw him with, he had a Ford Explorer. It was like, it's like a luxury Explorer, but it's bigger. I'm like, oh, okay. Dope. Fast forward a couple of weeks later, somebody on the campus with a Navigator that I'm in school with. And I'm like, yeah, this fool is going to be in trouble. And it was on like 20s and everything. I'm like, you living in a dorm with a $50,000-$60,000 car? Okay. So you know how that ended, right? I'm just saying. I had friends who were in the streets. And lesson learned, like, if you're going to be in the streets, don't wear street attire. Don't drive the same cars as everybody else. You're going to stick out like a sore thumb. Don't move like everybody else moves. But they didn't want to listen because it felt like they blended in. They blended into being, the stereotype. Is what it is, right? But can't tell nobody nothing. But lesson learned. Like, I stayed out of the streets like that. I knew too much about it before. When I was younger, I knew more about the streets than most people. I ain't even gonna get into that. So those lessons was learned. they had a situation where a guy died from alcohol poisoning. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be a drinker because, and I used to see people when I was younger drink too much and just and wild out, you know, and because of that, I learned not to really get too not to. I didn't start drinking alcohol until I was mid 20s, really. I didn't start smoking cigars till late 20s, early 30s. Never did. Well, I did like a little bit of weed once, but I but when I saw people's lives, because I've seen people do all kinds of drugs and alcohol, and it's like the way they look, it really turned me off, and it never worked out well for them. You know, you here today, gone tomorrow, literally. Because of their decisions. So that's another lesson I learned from other people's mistakes. Um, Having kids too young. My parents were teenagers when I was born, so I was petrified of having a kid as a teenager. I didn't start having sex till I was 20, cause I didn't get no toys like the rest of y'all got toys. Okay, I wasn't. Not gonna do it. I was nervous. Plus, when I used to try to, uh, my girlfriends, it would always be something happen. Somebody bust come in the house, and a last minute. It happened so many times. I was like, okay, this is just not meant to be. So, lesson learned from my parents, right? Um, I learned this lesson from watching other people. If you don't want to be with somebody, don't. Don't string them along. Like, you don't like them, then don't mess with them. Don't use them and then discard them. That's not a good look. Because that's gonna come back. That's gonna come back on you. Both genders could get scorned. I just say that. So, as much as you can, be as honest as possible. For what you know, because you can't be 100 about stuff you don't know, but everything you do know, yeah, that's honesty is the best policy. I learned that also from people thinking that they could just lie about everything and get away. It don't work that way. Um, Live below your means. I've watched more than a few people um, live above their means, and they come back to haunt them, and they didn't. Some recover, some didn't. Um, so it's better to be cheap than it is to be flashy, because cheap people still got money in their pocket, you know. But what you got, flamboyant people? Nah, because you really don't know the prices. Another lesson I learned from other people. Learn how much stuff really costs. Like, I learned about jewelry a long time ago. I learned about cars a long time ago. I learned about parts a long time ago. Um, I learned about depreciation and appreciation a very long time ago from other people. And sometimes when somebody tells you something costs this amount, I mean, the internet really changed that, so you actually can get better prices or know the prices. But even half of the time, those prices are a little overly inflated. Like, if you got cash, you can talk those prices down. And that's the lesson that I learned, because people try to make it look bigger than it is so you can pay more to feel good. Don't pay that. People who got it ain't paying that shit. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. They gonna let you pay. They're not. Um, uh, uh, another mistake I've seen people make is, how can I say this? Need, needing to, being too out there. Um, don't make yourself a target. Don't, because targets get hit. You don't want that. So now I've learned that from a few people. So, just some of the some things I learned from other people's mistakes. I'm done. I'm going to eat.